Why did you eventually decide to leave China?
There's always this constant anxiety that every year I needed to renew my work permit.
Last time we checked, you were doing your masters. So when did you get married? When did you start your family?
The amount of diversity your kids get to enjoy. There's a flexible kind of education you can give to your kids. Nobody will ever come up to you and say, don't come to this park anymore. There's really no avenue for you to invest your money. My work permit application is not accepted, and you can do whatever you like. You are part of the system.
Hey EJ fam, what's good? What's popping? Welcome back to the channel. If you are an OG and if you are new on the channel, hi, my name is Gloria. You're welcome to this channel. I hope that you become a member of the family by subscribing and turning on your bell notification so that you stay tuned for our future uploads. In today's video, you guys, we are back with another Japa series episode, and I'm so excited about today's episode because I have a dear friend of ours as well who relocated from China to Canada. I know that a lot of you are interested in moving to Canada. Okay, so if you want to get all the details, if you want to know how they did it, the interesting thing is that they moved as a family. Mr. Ehi, who you guys are going to see over here, and his family, actually in today's video, he's going to be pouring out to us and just telling us what life was like for them as a family of 4 in China, and how they moved to Canada and what they are currently experiencing in Canada. So if you guys are interested, definitely keep on watching. You already know what to do. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Of course, if you're new here, share this to others who you think might need it, and yeah, keep on watching. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Japa series episode, and I'm super happy and excited to have another wonderful guest. You guys must have seen a short intro about him before this actual video, so right about now I'm going to ask him to introduce himself. Hello sir, please can we get to know you?
Hi, Gloria. Thank you for inviting me to your series. My name is Ehi. Ehi, I used to live in China, and then I worked in China for a couple of years. I also studied in China, worked in China, then before moving to Canada. So I guess that's a big part of what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Ehi. Thank you so much for doing this, for being here. We really appreciate you. For starters, I would just like to know, how long were you in China? How long, the total number of years? You said you studied and you worked. How long was that?
I was in China for a total of 7 years, including the 2 years of my studies, and I worked for 5 years before leaving.
Amazing. So the 2 years was spent, I presume, getting a master's degree.
Yes.
Okay. What kind of job were you doing in China for like 5 years?
When I graduated from the master's degree, I got a job in a school as a teacher, as
Okay.
an English teacher in a primary school. So I worked as a teacher for that school for 2 years, or no, not 2 years, I would say 1 year. And then I moved to another school where I was also a teacher, but later I became coordinator for the international program at that primary school. So I was there for 4 years, a little bit over 4 years.
What was your general experience living in China, like living and working in China? So you can decide to split it into, work ethics, family life, or social life and things like that. Just a general appraisal.
Generally, I would say it was very nice. It was very wonderful. I look forward to visiting, going back to visit actually, because for me, living in China was a very good time. From the university days when we didn't have much, just friends and partying and just enjoying ourselves and trying to hustle, find something doing. for those 2 years. And also another thing that made China really fun are the people I met,
Mm.
friends from university. After university, when I started working, it became a more balanced life. I spent most of my time working. And then the last 4 years, working in the same city for 4 years, I got to become a good part of the community. Also built a very good network of friends and colleagues, and it was a great time for my kids. Also, they really enjoyed, hanging out with their friends, and we had very good friends. And our lifestyle was, I would say, very, very, very nice. I really enjoyed the lifestyle, the ease of the life, the the friendliness of everybody around, most people around, and the fact that you could enjoy, high quality things for not such a high cost. For example, traveling to other Chinese cities, staying in uh, 3-star, 5-star hotels, going on trips. These were things that we used to do easily without having to think about it. And it was just generally nice. I think the only part that I didn't really enjoy was if you are working in China, and for example, if you're a teacher in China and you are not from one of the top five native English speaking countries: US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, the UK. There's always this constant anxiety because it's you, this city today, their policy favors you, but you don't know about tomorrow. So that constant anxiety was just the part I didn't like. But if you take that away, every other thing was just it was amazing, really.
Interesting. So I understand that you have a family and you were raising your family in China whilst you were working as well.
Yes, yes.
Okay, can I get a little bit of a backstory about how that happened? I mean, the last time we checked, you were doing your masters. So when did you get married? When did you start your family? And how was that experience as well?
Okay, I actually met my wife in the university. So we studied together in the same university. She was 1 year ahead of me. She's from Botswana. So I met her in the university. We started dating up. When she graduated, she went back to Botswana, eventually came back to China to work also. At that time, I was finishing up my final year of study. So after my final year of study, she was already working in China again. And then we got married in 2018. And we got married in Botswana, and then we decided to move to China and stay together in China. And luckily for us, we were able to get employed by the same school. So the last 4 years we lived in China, we worked together in the same office. Our kid also attended the school where we were working, and then yeah, so it was just easy lifestyle.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine everything just really just worked out well together. So actually, I've gotten a lot of questions from people. Um, I mean, a lot of people, they come to China to work, and their spouse. For some people who don't want to be away from their spouse, sometimes their spouse or their family member, they want to move to China with them, to live with them, and some of them have kids. So because I make videos about family life in China as well, I've gotten a lot of questions from people like, what's it really like, raising a child in China? A lot of people don't actually know, because the truth is there are not a lot of videos out there that talk about these things. So I don't know if you can give us a brief overview of what it was like, raising a family, especially when it has to do with raising your kids. How many children do you have?
True, I have two kids.
Two. Okay, so I mean, you must have done it for like 4 years or less. So I think you have some sort of experience to talk to us about this.
Well, raising kids in China, I don't think it's any much different than raising kids in any country. In fact, for me, one thing I particularly love about the fact that we're living in China and the fact that we're raising our kids in China is the amount of diversity your kids get to enjoy. Because if you live in China as a foreigner, there's no way you will not be plugged into a community of other foreigners. It doesn't matter which city you are living in. There will always be a community of foreigners in that city that you can plug yourself into. And in this community of foreigners, there are people from everywhere, every continent you can think of. So maybe we were lucky, the city where we lived in, we had other people who also had kids the same age as our kids. So it was easy for us to mingle together, organize meet up, organize events to allow our kids play together. So from a very young age, you expose your kids to different cultures, different nationalities. That diversity really helps them mentally, which is what many of us don't get to have because we grow up in our home country. We don't, get to interact with foreigners that much till maybe we're in the university or something. But as kids, they get to enjoy that diversity. For school, I would say for school it might be a little bit tricky because as foreigners, your kids can't go to the public school, right? So it has to be like a private school, and which can be pretty expensive, especially if you're not a teacher, if you don't work as a teacher. But the other side is that if you work in other professions, you would earn enough to be able to fund private school education for your kids. For example, the school I was working at, they had a couple of students uh, a couple of foreign kids. The cost for the international program was about 60,000 RMB for a year, which is something that I don't know if you are working as an engineer or working as something else outside of teaching, you'll be able to afford. And if you're working as a teacher, you would be able to get some kind of subsidized cost like this. So making sure your kids go to school, it would have to be an international school and private school at least. So that can be the big tricky part, especially if maybe you're not earning so much,
Yeah.
afford that school fees for your kids. But then I also met parents who did a lot of alternative schooling for their kids. What they did is depending on the age of the kids, they had different private programs, the language, arts, science that their kids could attend. So they kind of do the homeschooling, but in a kind of way that you're not the one taking all the subjects. So, from Monday to Friday, your kid goes here from this time to this time to learn art. They go here from this time to this time to learn science. So they keep following whatever curriculum you want to follow. If you want to follow your home country's curriculum or another curriculum, you can follow it. So it's like there's a flexible kind of education you can give to your kids, even if you don't want the expensive kind. And then you can incorporate activities like dancing, swimming, karate, coding, all these little things. So the idea that the kid must go to school, shift away from that idea. You can see that you can build. For example, I had a friend who had this program for a kid, her son. He would go to a Spanish class, he would go to arts, he would go to science, he would go to maths in blocks. In this way, we go to English class for reading and everything. And she had a very nice structured system for her child. And they had been in China for 6 years, and he attended such program. And then she would make him take exams of schools in her home country, which was Russia, and so he would get the credit for schools there. So these are things that are possible for those who might say, "Oh, I don't have money to afford 70,000, 80,000 a year private school kids." They are definitely structured programs, and these programs in China are not very expensive. That is the wonderful part. You want your child in some kind of art program, it's not expensive. Language programs, not expensive, and you can find them everywhere.
Okay, that's interesting. So now I just want to ask, right? Because this one is something that a friend of mine has experienced. Now I don't know if you have experienced it, but it's also just like if you have any advice concerning it, if you have experienced it, and even if you've not experienced it, you might as well just lend the voice. The aspect of you said that in your community, there were lots of other foreigners, fortunately, who had kids your age. For people who do not really have other foreigners, okay, people who most of their neighbors are Chinese, how do these children get to interact or play with their fellow kids? Because I've had instances where someone said, oh, they went to a park to play. Her kids, she has two kids with some of the other children, and all of a sudden they start leaving one by one. Literally, the park was full, and the moment they came in, they just started disappearing one by one, and her son was like, mommy, what's going on? Where were they going? And it broke her heart so much. She didn't even know how to explain, because the boy is what, 3 or 4. So she didn't know how to explain or deal with it. So I don't know if you've experienced this kind of thing, or even if you've not, is there anything you can advise that a parent can do in this situation?
Well, I would say I wouldn't say I've definitely experienced something like that. 100%. It happens. Uh, why it happens, I don't know, but
Okay.
yeah, just ignore it. It's not. It's You see, the magic about kids is that if you keep going to the park, eventually kids will start playing with each other, regardless of whatever happens.
Okay.
I definitely had instances when my daughter would go downstairs to the park, or maybe, and then some kids will move away from her or something. But eventually, she would go downstairs to the park, and there will be kids that would play with
Willing to
her.
play with her. Yeah.
And when of course, when we're living in China, we didn't have any foreigner neighbor per se. All our neighbors were Chinese, and in the end, kids used to come to our house in and out as like normal. So
Oh.
when you first arrive, when your kids first arrive, there's a good chance they will have that experience. Like
Mhm.
our son in school also have experience of people teasing him or people calling him names and everything. But in the end, they move past it, and they start to have just friends that they play with.
Yeah.
Especially begin to understand the language and interact more with the kids. So it's not something you really worry your head about or cry about or anything. Just ignore it. If kids move away, go to the park the next day, go to the park the next day. Nobody will ever come up to you and say, don't come to this park anymore or something like that. So you just ignore it completely, and then
Thank you so much. I think this is really helpful. So now I just want to know, we have like an idea of how your life was in China, and dare I say, it seemed like a really nice life.
yeah.
Why did you eventually decide to leave China?
But like I said, the only thing about living in China that I didn't like was the fact that every year I needed to renew my work permit. And
Mm,
every year, even though I was working in a very good job, in a stable environment, I was in management already. But every year I would still have this anxiety of, what if the law changes? What if something changes and my application is no longer accepted?
mm,
What if? Just what if? And the fact that we're living in China as foreigners, okay, you're earning money in China, but there's really no avenue for you to invest your money. You don't have access to credits. You must get everything cash. So basically, you're living here, but you're constantly having that mindset that, okay, I need to do something somewhere else. I need to do
mm.
something somewhere else. You really don't have access to invest in anything in the country. And then it just became, for me, it became more stressful as I began to have kids. Like, okay, what would happen if tomorrow my work permit application is not accepted and tomorrow we have to leave? You know, it's something that began to give me like worries. And then I thought about it like, okay, if I get a chance to go somewhere I know it's more permanent, then I'll take it. instead of, just living in the good life, but still having that constant fear of when is it going to end? Will it end? Is it now? Is it next year? Something like that.
So, in summary, I'm hearing you say the, will I say, instability of laws in China.
Yeah, the instant, especially in the teaching profession, right? If I
Okay.
was working as an engineer or something,
Mm,
or in another profession, I had friends from other countries who were working in other professions. This sort of things doesn't affect them, right? Because they are
mm,
working in a job where it's not controlled. Teaching is a very controlled profession in China. Tomorrow, the law might come up and say, okay, this group of people are no longer qualified, or this group of people are no longer qualified, right? So that was the biggest problem.
okay. So, I'm guessing these and some other underlying reasons made you decide to, leave China.
Yes.
So, where exactly did you move to from China?
Moved to Canada.
Great, Canada. So, why did you choose to move to Canada?
They had a permanent residence system,
Okay.
permanent resident application system, the express entry system, and it was pretty straightforward. I considered Australia and then New Zealand and then Canada. But of these three, for me, Canada had the most straightforward uh, system
Mhm.
to apply straight for permanent residency. So I just went for it.
Okay, so tell us a bit about this process and how you guys were able to apply for it and eventually get it.
Okay, so in fact, the first time I heard about Canada's express entry system was in 2018, I would say. Yeah, 2018. A friend of mine who was also in China told me about it. Oh, okay, let's apply for this Canada Express Entry program. But of course, I had no information about it. I had researched prior to that in 2016, 2017. I had researched the Australian Permanent Residence Application Program. But that program had a very unique twist to it because it's a point-based system, right? So they evaluate your education, they evaluate your work experience. But for the Australian program, your education should be in line with your work experience for you to get the full score for educational experience. So for example, I was working as a teacher, right?
Mm,
Only way I would get full score for work experience as a teacher is if I studied education as a bachelor's degree or master's degree or something. If not, if I had 3 years work experience, for example, they would evaluate it and probably give me 1 year
mm,
based on education that the education does not match. So because Australia had that system,
mm,
I didn't fit in yet in 2018, right? Because I needed more years of work experience in order to to get it. So, and then I made the mistake of just assuming that all the others are the same, right? So
yeah.
I just about moving through express entry or applying for permanent residence anywhere. Let me just focus on building my work experience in China and enjoying my life in China.
Mm,
That was my idea about it.
mm,
But when my friend was telling me about Canada, I just assumed it's the same thing. I wouldn't qualify. But because I knew he had a brother already in Canada, so I thought, okay, maybe it would be easy for him maybe because he has family in Canada. So I just ignored it completely. So that was 2018.
mm,
And then 2019, when he was leaving China, he came to visit me on his way to Canada.
mm,
He stopped by at my place and then explained the process to me. So that
okay.
was when I saw that, okay, it's different. These guys would actually take my work experience and give me full marks for
Mm,
work experience and also give me full marks for my education. So that's when I said, okay, let me start the process. Let me go. So the express entry system is you apply straight for permanent resident, but it's a point-based system, right? So they evaluate your work experience, your education level, your English language. You write IELTS, so your English language test score. If you have family in Canada and all those. Also, if you have a spouse and your spouse is applying with you, they also evaluate her education, her work experience, and add it to your own score.
Okay.
So at minimum score to get into the pool is 400. But then every month, in fact, at that time, they used to do draws every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So every 2 weeks, they would announce the draw. And if your score meets the cutoff, then they invite you officially to apply for permanent residence. So that's when you are basically applying for the visa and submitting all the documents for what you have claimed. You said you have a master's degree. This is when you submit the evidence. You said you have work experience 5 years. This is when you submit the evidence. You say you have a brother or sister in Canada. This is where you submit the evidence. So that was what we did. So that 2019, I started working on getting in the pool, because before you get in the pool, you need to evaluate your credentials, your education credentials, and also write IELTS. These are the two you need to get in the pool. So 2019, we started with the evaluation process. You need to submit your transcript, gathered my transcript from China, the one from Nigeria, my wife's transcript from Botswana, from China, put everything together. It took us a couple of months to get everything together, submitted it for evaluation, and then we went to register for IELTS. So we did IELTS, put all the information, and created a profile in the express entry pool.
Yeah.
And I think when we got into the profile, our score was 419.
Okay.
It's December 2019. Of course, you can increase your score by getting a better IELTS score.
Oh.
So into the pool, and then I wrote IELTS again, got a better score, and then uploaded my new IELTS score. So our score went from 419 to 476.
Oh, wow.
And then they did the draws. I think 3 months later, the draw was 477 of 474. Got our invitation to apply.
I want to know, which year eventually did you guys, get the visa and move to Canada?
Okay, so we got our invitation to apply in September or November, somewhere around 2019.
Okay.
But COVID hit in 2020, right?
Yeah.
In 2020, so everything came crashing. The process used to be 6 months maximum. 6 we get evaluated, because it's called express entry, right? So the process used to be, when they invite you to apply, maximum within 6 months they will evaluate your
Application
and tell you yes or no. In fact, I had people at that time. I had met people whose application took less than 60 days. So, and we had a lot of information at this point. We had joined WhatsApp groups, and okay, submit this, make sure you submit this like this, make sure you submit this letter like this. Don't wait for them to ask you, submit. So we packaged all our application very well. I think, if I remember clearly now, it was 2019 November we submitted, expecting that maximum by mid 2020 we would get invitation to apply, but we didn't get it until April 2022.
Oh. So April 2022 was the invitation to apply.
No, April 2022 was our visa, our invitation to apply.
Okay, it was the process of vetting your documents and giving you the visa that took that long.
Took that long.
Okay.
Yes.
So April 2022, you finally got your visas.
Yes.
Great. And you moved to Canada when?
in July.
July. Amazing. So July 2022, it's almost a year now.
Yes.
Okay. So the past 1 year, how has it been? How has life been in Canada?
Yeah, it's been good too. I would say it's been good. Although we of course we have built a lot of relationships in China. We miss our friends. We
Yeah.
are trying to build the same relationships here,
Mm,
but so far it's been very, very good.
okay.
Much more relaxed because here you are part of the system.
Mm,
You arrive as a permanent resident. You have equal rights with everybody in the country.
mm,
Basically, the only thing you cannot do is vote. Every other thing you have access to, just the way citizens have access to it. There's no limit to the job you can do, right?
mm.
In China, for example, your work permit is for this employer for this job. You cannot technically legally do side hustle or
Yeah.
anything,
Mm,
but here you can do whatever you like. You are part of the system, so it's much more relaxed. The kids go to public school now. It's, education for them, it's like more balanced,
mm.
right? There's also a very good level of diversity because it's Canada, also a lot of people from different countries
Yeah.
also great here. So there's a good level of diversity, much more reliant. You're not worried about uh, maybe tomorrow somebody will tell you the system is no longer like this or they've cancelled this. No, yeah, and you're part of the system. You have access to invest your money in the country. You have access to build a life in the country. You're not living as a visitor,
Yeah.
basically.
Anymore.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's very good.
Okay, so I want to know, you said that when you were applying, like to put up your score, your points, right? Your score, yeah. Your bachelor's or your degree doesn't necessarily have to be the same as your work experience.
No,
Okay, so now I want to know when it comes to getting a job in Canada, will they now look at your degree or your work experience if they are two different, things?
if you want to get a job,
Yes.
it depends on the job you are applying for, right?
Mm,
Uh, it depends. You can, that's another thing about moving to Canada. You can decide to do anything you want. If you come to Canada today and you say, first, I want to go back to school and study what I like, the
mm,
government will give you a grant to go to school, right? So if you want to apply for a job, of
mm.
course, the important thing to any employer is the experience you have.
Experience, okay.
You are better off targeting jobs where you have experience rather
Experience,
than jobs
okay.
where
Degree,
you're from, right?
okay.
So that is the key thing. So there's no limit. It's
Okay.
up to you what you want to target. If you want to target in the area where you have work experience, or you want to target in the area where you study, or
Mm,
you want to study more, or for example, you've always wanted to do tech or nursing or whatever, you can go back to school and
cool.
study. And you can work while you're studying this. Nobody's stopping you because you're not working as an international student with limited hours or anything like that. You can
Yeah,
do whatever.
amazing, amazing. So now I just want to know, right? Although you've just been in Canada for 1 year, do you ever miss China? Like, do you sometimes miss the China life? If yes, why? What do you miss the most about China?
First thing is the ease of life. In fact, the first thing that hits me here when I arrived is the fact that you almost cannot function if you don't have a car.
A car. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Lived in China for 7 years. The thought of having a car never crossed
Really?
my head. Moving around was so easy, so
Yeah.
cheap,
Yeah.
so smooth. You never have to worry about it. And the ease of life in China with technology, with the amount of things you can do on your phone, amount of uh, convenience you can bring to yourself. Why my twinkle of an eye you have it. There's a very high level quality life in China that is low cost, And if you work in China as a foreigner, you really enjoy both worlds because you earn very well, more than most locals, but they will also enjoy very high level stuff at low cost. But when you come here, enjoying the same things costs you way more than you would have imagined. So those are part of the things I miss, and also my friends, right? The friends I had, we're always talking on the phone. I miss them very much also. So those are just the things I miss about China. The convenience of life, the fact that it doesn't cost me a lot to enjoy myself, and the friends I had.
Okay, so I've also heard that Canada is a cold country. Not just about the weather, but it seems like for some reason, like people are not so, you don't get the opportunity to really meet up with people, and the communities are not very, lively and things like that. I just want to know, what is your opinion about making friends in Canada? Like, how has it been? Have you been able to make new friends? How easy it is, or how difficult is it?
Okay. Yeah, one thing you have to understand first, there are 6 months in Canada where everybody's inside their house. So
Good
that
point.
is the first 6 months of the year where you might not even see your neighbor.
Yeah.
Everybody's inside their house. Snow is constant. The only time somebody's outside, maybe they're trying to shovel snow out of their driveway, or they are trying to leave to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So not a lot of interactions in those
Yeah.
months,
Mm,
right? I didn't understand it until I experienced it
mm,
because I have no desire to go outside, basically.
mm,
Only people that know you that will come to your door.
mm.
Only go to the people's door of people you
I
know,
know.
right? So that's the first thing. But generally, making friends is not hard. It's not a
Okay.
difficult thing. In the summer months like now, everybody's outside every day. You go everywhere. Canadians are nice. They will always say hello. They're always smiling. They're always willing to help you. They're generally nice people. So that one is separate. But those 6 months of winter
Mm,
where you will not see anybody to talk to. So if you move to Canada alone in winter, it can be very difficult. It can be very difficult because imagine you are living alone, you move to a new country and you don't talk to people for 6 months. And that is why it's important. Like for us, what we did, the first week we got here, we found a church. We started going to church because it's important to plug yourself into some kind of community immediately where at least you have interactions and
mm,
then you can start building your interactions from there. But if you try to just be on your own,
mm.
it's very difficult to navigate.
Yeah. Great. Amazing. I mean, I know a couple of people who have moved to China alone, and I can only imagine. And if you're not a person who is outgoing, you might just have to make some lifestyle changes because nobody's gonna come to you.
Absolutely nobody. Nobody. It can
Mm,
be very, especially in winter. For six
yeah.
full months, it's week in, week out of snow.
Mm,
So it's if you're on the street, you're on your way somewhere,
mm.
or you're
Yeah.
on your way back.
Yeah.
There's no time to stop and say hello to anybody.
Okay, so I want to ask, which city of Canada are you guys, or which province are you guys?
Or Ontario, like
Ontario.
the capital, Ottawa.
Okay. And okay, I think Ontario is not one of the colder places, right?
Yeah, for me, I don't know that there's much difference because when the snow
Okay.
comes, it comes everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, there's no, maybe the only place that doesn't see snow as much is
Hmm.
British Columbia. The province
Okay.
is a bit warmer, but every single place, every other place in Canada,
Yes.
and the truth is, there is no difference between -40 and -20.
Okay.
The same.
The same cold. Mm.
It's the same code. You won't say, oh, I'm in -20, it's a bit warm. It's cold. And then snow, when the snow falls, it will fill up your driveway. The way to fill up the driveway in Manitoba
Saskatoon.
is the way to fill up your driveway here. Maybe
Yeah.
the only difference is when your own snow will start and when it will
Okay.
stop.
Okay. Like what month to start or what time of the day to start?
It will not be more than 2 weeks difference.
Okay. Finally, before I let you go, thank you so much. This video has been very helpful and very interesting, actually. Is there any advice that you have for people who want to move from China to Canada or from China to any other country of the world? Anything that you feel like must know?
Must know, I would say, don't just take people's word for it. Do your own research, right? That is the number one very important thing.
Mm.
It's fine to try to hear from people who have experienced it. That is another thing. First, if you want to hear from people, make sure you're hearing from people who have gone through the process themselves, right? Speaking from experience. Two, even if you hear from people who have gone through the process themselves, they might have done something wrong in their own process. So try to do your own research. Always believe in your own research first.
Mm.
That is, first. Don't assume. Don't just take information at face value like I did,
Mm.
right? I could have started processing Express Entry Canada 2017, but I just assumed it's the same as Australia. They need me to have X number of work experience, right? So it delayed to 2019. And I'm sure there are people who have had that kind of experience also. So always do your own research for yourself and get information for yourself. Two, just start. It always looks like an uphill task. Oh, well, I need to first do transcripts. Oh, I need to first write IELTS. If you get all that information at once, it looks like something that will take 1,000 years.
Yes.
Just solving one after the other in front of you.
Mm.
Step one, finish it. Step two, before you know it, you have gotten to the end of your own part. You just wait for the other people's part.
Mhm.
So that is those are the advice I would give. There are many things you can apply for. You can get a job directly. You can use school. You can do permanent residence program. There are many other programs. Canada has what, more than 50 programs for immigrating here.
Mm.
So you just have to find the one that fits your own line, that fits you and that you can use to your advantage. And it's not necessary you find an agent. Many people in China, they have the tendency of saying, oh, who's your agent? Who
Mm.
is your, who can you introduce me to somebody that can help me? You know, in fact, you see these days on WeChat, you see a lot of nonsense posts of we can get work permits in Canada. Those
Yeah.
are people who are too lazy to do their own research, because
Mm.
the truth, there is no program in Canada for immigrating to Canada or any country, Australia, that you cannot do on your own. So even if you want somebody to go through the process to make sure it's a licensed person.
Yeah.
So, and if for example, the process for us to immigrating to Canada, I talked about it step by step in our own YouTube channel. You can
Yeah.
go and watch. You would see the step by step process. Step one, this one I did. Step two, this one I did, up until the end, and you can see if it meets your pathway. Right? Okay, check how many scores can I get. If I can get this score, okay, then I can go through here,
Yeah.
and then just believe in yourself. Don't wait for agents that
Mm.
will help you.
And a lot of these agents we know are even scammers. So you might even give her your money and it goes out.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys, we've come to the end of this question interview session. But before we go, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about Mr. Ehi. I know he has mentioned that he has some of these videos on his channel, and he does have a YouTube channel where they talk about the process of relocating to Canada, especially from China. I know that there are a lot of you who are asking me, oh, how do I move from China to here, from China to here? And Canada, we all know Canada is one of those hot countries, okay, where, I mean, who doesn't want to go to Canada as a permanent resident, right? So if you guys want to get more information about the actual steps, he just grazed the surface in this video. If you want to know how they did things step by steps, and even how they are settling in Canada, getting your apartment, getting your house, your car, these are things that are very, very important if you plan to relocate to Canada. Then please go over to Ehi Stevens' channel. The name of the channel is The Happy Ehi After. Very, very interesting name, if I do say so myself. And I'm going to put the channel link in the first comment as well as on the screen. You guys can just click it. It will take you straight to his channel. You can watch some of their videos and then subscribe. Turn on your bell so that every time they post new videos, you will be informed and you will be aware. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Ehi, for coming on the channel. Thank you for all the information. We really appreciate it. And we pray that the good Lord will continue to bless and prosper you and protect you and your family as you continue your sojourn in the land of Canada. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Please, my regards to Mrs. Happy and to the kids. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.